David Szymanski. A name some of you may know, but if you don't know, let me explain. This man is a game director who has over the past years made a name for himself. Games like Dusk and Ironlung really put him in the spotlight. I always found him an interesting person and his games always seemed really cool. But before this video, I had never touched any of his games. I had no clue about his games, other than, like I mentioned earlier, Ironlung and Dusk. But today that changes as I have played through every single game he has directed or at least heavily worked on. It's about 13 different games, which was more than expected when starting to make this video. And let me tell you, some of these games really surprised me. So without wasting more time, this is my video on every single David Szymanski game. And no better place to start than with his first game he has ever released. Fingerbones was David's first ever published game, released on 20th of March 2014. This game is also completely free to play. I do actually remember watching Markiplier play it a long time ago, but again, that was very long ago. Now, usually developers' first game would be bad or not well made, you know, but surprisingly, this was a solid experience. The game is about a man being trapped in a bunker, wandering alone. He has been in the bunker ever since the world ended and is the last man alive, supposedly so. This game does a really good job at enticing you, like something feels so off about this place and the character you play as. You get the story bits throughout these notes and learn that he had someone else here as well, this being his daughter. But as we're quick to learn, this father was not a good father at all. But the text is so insanely small, like good lord, I had to be so close up to my monitor just to be able to read it. It is a pretty short game, clocking around 15 to 20 minutes, but it does work well for that runtime. The atmosphere is also really solid, really selling you the isolation from the outside world, only being able to see the sunlight shining through the windows. And the game style is simplistic, but I think it actually works in its favor. The lesser details really give off this lonely feel to it. I like this game, this was a surprise. In the same year, on the 28th of October, the Moon Sliver was released. It's the Moon Sliver, not Moon Silver. Just keep in mind when I say the Moon Silver, I mean the Moon Sliver. I kinda messed up the play order of this game, so this was actually the first one I played from David's catalog. It's similar to Fingerbones that you walk around and read notes to get a story, although I think this game was even better. Visually it's also simple, but effective. The way it's so easy to see how everything is just so dead. Buildings are empty and some are even demolished. The water started to flood a lot of the world and life itself is just completely dead there. This game has you playing as a character walking around trying to find out what happened to this place. Walking into buildings, finding notes and seeing exactly what went on. Now while the story is nothing that complex, it does get the job done. My problem with it is the text boxes. They are big and sometimes they just lap with each other. So you have to stand still in one spot to read them, which could get pretty annoying. But the game makes more than up for it for what is a really good atmosphere. Walking around this place, hearing the wind and rain, being just completely alone was really unsettling. And when you enter underground, the atmosphere just tenses up. The atmosphere here was just generally great. And in the end, we do learn why this place ended the way it did and who we are playing as. I'm not really sure if it's confirmed, but a part of me feels like this and Fingerbones are connected in the same world. I say that because in both games, the world is pretty much ending. The Moon Silver, despite some few technical issues, was even better than Fingerbones. Yet another solid game by David. The next game David would release would be The Music Machine, released on May 6, 2015. My expectations for these games have been pretty moderate, but I did come out really surprised by how much I enjoyed the previous ones. But oh my god dude, my expectations were blown away by this game. This game is generally so fantastic and such a massive step up from David's previous work, it's not even funny. The game is about the spirit and a girl who gets stranded on this weird island. The goal is for the spirit named Quentin to find a way to kill the girl, as she is the reason he died. She lied to her dad about him trying to date her, as she is 13 years old while he is 35. This led to her dad killing him, and it turns out the reason why she did lie about this was because she wanted her dad to show some care for her. So Quentin now controls Hailey's body and is trying to find a way to kill her. The dialogue in this game is also really charming. I love Quentin and Hailey's bickering back and forth. She doesn't even believe he wants to kill her, instead just wants to goof around. And the dialogue boxes are so much cleaner and easier to read this time, so that's just great. Just like the previous game, this game has you basically just walking around. God, this game is so good at what it does. The visuals in this game are just so fantastic. I adore the use of singular colors alongside strong shadows throughout the different environments. environments. It was such a blessing for the eyes. The atmosphere too is just amazing. At times it can be super relaxing and chill, and other times it can be really creepy or unsettling. This game has a lot of environmental sounds, but also actual music. This soundtrack is really great. Like, this is just downright beautiful. Walking down the sewers and just hearing that violin, oh my god, I was blown away. Or when you are in the void, the atmosphere is so peaceful and just beautiful. But like I said earlier, the game can also be unsettling, like in the Thorn Forest. The music and sounds there made it sound like there was going to be some monsters there chasing me. I'm telling you, this game is absolutely fantastic. This is also a sequel to the Moon Sliver, which is confirmed by one of the dialogue. I was truly amazed by this game. This really was something special. This has probably become one of my new favorite games. I'm not even joking. This game was absolutely a blast from beginning to end. And not only that, but it also has a reference to Tiny Box Tim. This made me so happy to see. Without a doubt, on the top of the list of games by David I played. I can't imagine anything topping it in this video. Released the same year as the Music Machine on October 27th, A Wolf in Autumn is a bit different than the previous game. This game is about the girl waking up in a shed in a garden. Getting out, she gets a call from this machine. This being her mother telling her to just stay and not to try and go down in the basement. As if she does, the wolves and her mother will be very upset. This game is designed like an escape room where you have to use the tools around you to find a way to escape the room you're in. Now, this game is interesting, but damn, I spent way too long trying to finish it. I was stuck at 2 parts of this game, and it was for such stupid reasons. But outside of that, I did like the game. I really like the visuals in this game, especially in the garden. It looks so nice, the sunlight and the colors, oh, it was so soothing. The game also has voice acting, with the mother being the only voice character. And damn, this woman gets so angry at this girl, it actually scared me.
Do I have to pry off your kneecaps, you little shit? Do I have to nail your fucking arms to the floor? I will twist your legs off and break every bone in your ugly little body if I have to. I am your mother. You will obey me. Get back in your fucking cage.
Now, I do have another gripe with this game. The sound effect for when the voice robot starts beeping is insanely ear-grating. Like, good lord. And there's no way to turn down the sound effects in this game. I also just want to mention this, but it was so funny when you open the door, the wolf appeared, and whenever I closed and opened the door, it would just attack you, just go away. It got a pretty good laugh out of me. Out of all the games so far, this is probably my least favorite. I really feel like the previous games had like the perfect length, but this one, I definitely feel like could have been longer. It kind of ends too quickly, which is such a shame because the atmosphere was very solid there, and graphically, I really liked it. And with that ends the classic era of David Szymanski games. Because after this, he will not only release his biggest game yet, it will also be the one to put him on the map. This game being Dusk. Despite never having played this game before, I have heard many people really love this game. Even some saying it's one of the best retro FPS games ever made. As someone who really likes fast-paced first-person shooters, this is a game that was right up my alley. But is it really that good? Let's find out. Now, unlike David's early games where you walk around, take in the environment to understand the story, here you have to kill the bad guys with a huge arsenal of weapons to destroy their way of living. Without doubt, this is his most ambitious game yet, being up to 8 hours long, compared to his previous longest one being just about over an hour. Now that's all well and good, but the question still remains, is this game truly deserving of the 97% positive reviews on Steam? Dusk is a very simple game in its premise and story. You wake up having been kidnapped by the cultists, but you escape and kill them. With now your current goal is to kill the rest of the cultists and even the military and achieve absolute power. The game is structured like a classic Doom game. You have to find certain colored keys in order to open a door to progress. It's a structure I find working well in this game. This game is super fast, the weapons shoot fast and you move fast. You know, I'm not really into speedrunning, but I can imagine trying to finish these levels as fast as possible can be pretty enjoyable for some. The weapons you get in this game are also really fun to use. They have punches sounds when you shoot them, which makes them just much more satisfying to use. The double barrel shotgun and rifle are some of my favorites. And of course, some weapon works against some enemies better than others. The gameplay was really addicting and it made me just want to play more. Another thing that makes this game addictive and fun to play are how short the levels are. It really makes it feel so much more fresh when you get to a new level. All the levels are so unique and stand out from each other. I quite love the aesthetic too. I love the grim colors, I love the use of red, blue and yellow. I love how some levels just has a certain color as their theme. It looks really cool. It has a bit of a low poly style, but it still has its own flair with it all running super smooth. However, if you're not a fan of this look of the game, they did also release a free DLC called the Dusk HD, giving the game a new graphics look while still keeping the aesthetics and atmosphere of the original. I do really like this new look, especially the new added animations, but for me personally, I still prefer the original graphics. The game is also challenging, not overly difficult, but you still need a good reaction time and run around a lot to take down the enemies. Some of them will kill you fast if you're not careful enough. The atmosphere in this game is also just really great. It has a mix of being unsettling and creepy while also being hardcore and just awesome. I love how the game goes from farms in the outer lands to military bases and then to weird and bizarre worlds that makes absolutely no sense. And with the very cream on top, the soundtrack in Dusk is super good. I love the ambient tracks that creates this dark atmosphere, but the metal tracks are just amazing. It's really similar to the modern Doom game's OST. It makes you so pumped up, it makes you feel like an unstoppable force. A big shout out to Andrew Husholt for creating a really fantastic soundtrack. I highly recommend you listen to it. Now all this is fantastic, but I do have some gripes with this game. So in this game, if you die, you start from the beginning of the level. And for some games, this could be very harsh, but I think it works pretty well for this game due to levels being about 5 to 10 minutes. However, I don't like how falling off a cliff is the same as dying. And if you do so, you have to restart the level again. It's super annoying because it's so easy to do so due to character speed. Several times I tried to run and then just fell down to my death, having to start all over again, and that was not fun. They should have made it so if you fall down in a pit or like just a black void, it wouldn't kill you, but instead just take a bit of your health, like maybe 20 or so. The game would have still punished you for making a mistake, but it will feel much more fair. But honestly, a lot of levels don't have any pits to fall down to, so it's not a huge complaint, but it's still annoying regardless. There are also some enemies I really hate in this game. Most of them I do find fair and fun to fight against, but these cowgirls can go and lick a cactus. They have so much health and do so much damage that also has a splash radius.
And I hate them! I hate them! I hate them! And guess what? I also hate them!
But despite that, I had a great time with Dusk. Dusk does also feature some extra modes, and one of them being an endless mode. It's essentially a mode where you can see how many waves of enemies you can survive before you die. It's a fun challenge and extra content for people who want to play more Dusk. There is also a multiplayer mode, which I did not get to play for this video, but it looks really fun, looks like a great time. Overall, Dusk was a great game. It's a game I can see myself going back to and replaying. This is for sure my second favorite game in this video so far. You would think that we would be done with Dusk by now, but actually not, because 3 years later Dusk 82 would be released. A weird sequel that's very different from the original. Instead of being another first-person shooter, this is a puzzle game in the style of a game you will play on the Atari 2600. Now this one I was pretty skeptical about. It kinda just didn't look like something I would enjoy, but surprisingly, I liked it. The goal of the game is to escape through the white door in each level, but to do so you also have to kill all the enemies on screen. Some enemies you can kill with your standard gun power up, while others only with some explosives. But there's also one other thing to keep in mind. Enemies only move when you move. It can get really challenging having to plan out every single step you take just to finish the level. You also have to keep in mind that you have a limited amount of steps you can take before you get the game over. But honestly, I don't think anyone will struggle with this. I don't think it ever reached below 1,000, so I really don't get why this is a thing. You can also collect these blue crystals to increase the amount of steps you can take, but again, it's no point. Despite that, the game still offers a good challenge. And as you go on with the levels, it gets increasingly more complex and tricky to finish them. The soundtrack is also very solid. Despite being kinda repetitive, it never really gets old to listen to. I really like tracks like Bleeding Out, which is also a remix of a track from Dusk. There are about 25 levels in the game, and it will probably take you about 3 hours to beat the whole thing. The last mission has a boss fight against this red dude that is clearly an Arnold parody. There is also a mode where you can create custom levels and upload it so people can try it out. Overall, I really like Dusk 82. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. This is definitely a game worth checking out. Iron Lung is an interesting game because out of all the games of David's catalog, this did not seem like the one that would become a hit, but surprisingly the game did way better than expected, and suddenly we're seeing YouTubers making videos about it getting millions of views. Even to a point where one of the biggest game YouTubers on the platform want to make a theatrical movie based on it. Like, that just does not happen every day. Now, despite knowing about this game for a long while, I never actually played it myself. I always wanted to, but sort of always forgot about it. But finally for this video I could actually play it, and I could finally experience it. In a universe where planets and galaxies are disappearing in a silent rapture, the only things remaining are spaceships and people on board them. Weirdly, however, there is a moon that is still there, filled with an ocean of blood. They send a prisoner down in a submarine down to the trench to take some pictures in order to find out more about this strange moon. In return, the prisoner will be let free. What crimes this prisoner did before he came here, we will never know. There is also a note to find in the back of the sub, this note being written by another one that was in one of these subs. As the person you're playing as, it's not the first one to go into one of these subs, and probably won't be the last either. You are expected to die here, they don't expect you to come back. The gameplay has you controlling the sub in an X and Y axis, trying to dodge your surroundings and take pictures of these anomalies, and that's pretty much it. This game is really simple to its gameplay and structure, but it more than makes up for it with its atmosphere. Being alone in the sub, hearing the sounds from the sub itself and sounds from the outside works wonderfully, especially considering that you can't see what's outside whatsoever unless you take a picture. There is barely any music playing, and it really works to its advantage. The photo mechanic is just simply brilliant, because the pictures take a few seconds to load, giving you enough time to give a build-up of what is showing on the photo. The things you take pictures of too are really strange, some being bones of big creatures, while others can be this weird star that makes this really weird sound. One of my favorite aspects of this game is how little we actually know what is going on. Why are there so many planets and galaxies gone? Why is this blood moon still here? And is there actually hope for anyone still alive? There are so many questions yet that don't get answered, and I think it's for the better. I think having so much mystery is part of what made this game such a hit, and I'm glad to say that I finally got to play Iron Lung. It was such a cool experience, and I really enjoyed my time with it. This is also definitely an easy recommendation, especially considering it costs like $5 or $6. It's pretty cheap and it's definitely worth it. Released later in the same year as Iron Lung, Gloomwood is probably the most ambitious game David has directed. But unlike the previous games in this video, where he was the sole director, Gloomwood is not only being worked by David Szymanski, but 3 others. Dylan Rogers, Nate Behrens, and Thomas Porta, with New Blood Interactive helping with publishing it. Nate Behrens has made some games of his own like Sagebrush and Cellular Harvest, which both seem super interesting. I will definitely check them out someday. Thomas Porta is working on a stealth game of his own, similar to Gloomwood, but of course in his own style, and in a more medieval setting. And lastly, but certainly not least, Dylan Rogers. He works as a developer of New Blood and even worked at Dusk. But for Gloomwood, both Dylan and David were the main directors of this project. This game tapped into the stealth genre, and this one I had some pretty high hopes for, as I love stealth games. Now, before I go further about the game itself, it's important to note that the game is still in early access. The game is still being worked on, and it is going to take a while before it's actually properly done. But despite that, the game is still insanely good. Like, this is such a well-crafted stealth game. This actually might be the best stealth game I played in a long while. The story is that you are a doctor of this village being taken to prison for whatever reason. However, a man does help you to set free, and now your goal is to escape and uncover mystery in Gloomwood. The game is, like I said earlier, a stealth game, but unlike Dusk, where you get a huge arsenal of weapons being able to kill pretty much everyone, here you have a very limited inventory and can easily get killed by anyone, making you have to be very sneaky and quiet to survive. With you choosing how you want to kill an enemy or get to a point on the map without causing too much noise, because if you do so, everyone will know where you are and you will die.
I'm joking! Stop!
The gameplay here is super well done, and the mechanics are pretty deep, I would say. You can distract enemies using pieces from the environment like bricks, glass bottles, and even dead rats. But you can also find some weapons to use, mainly the sword, which is used for combat, but you can also one-hit kill enemies if they have not spotted you yet. By far the easiest way to take them down, but personally, I love lighting up a barrel and killing them that way. You can also find a pistol, and it's alright, but it's not that great, and you should be only using it in emergency cases. The shotgun, however, is much stronger, and that one can actually kill enemies in one hit. But just keep in mind that if you have to reload it, you're pretty much open for attacks and you can die very easily. This game's art direction is just amazing, and I love everything about it. I love the environments, I love the enemy design, and the music and atmosphere is just great. I really have no complaints about the visuals whatsoever. I also really like the menus and how they're designed, having these illustrations that looks like something the Doctor drew himself. Really nice and clean looking menu. When playing this game, I really expect the location to be just a simple prison and a town, but it goes into places I never expected the game to go to. At first you're at the prison, but then move on to some caves with blue lights, and then you see this really big castle with a market street with different types of buildings. But then you go down to the deep pits filled with these bird humans, and this is for sure the most atmospheric part of the game. At the end of the level, it also has what is probably the most intense and terrifying moment of the entire game. I really did not expect to see this in the game, but I really liked it. It also gave us some more of that sweet Gloomwood lore. You know, the atmosphere in general, just really fantastic. And just like the underground tunnels, there were several creepy moments. But there was this one moment in the game that had one of the best build-ups in anything horror related I have played in a long time. At the other side of the city, the part where the pig cops, you will find a way to a tower where you can climb down some chains. When you enter here, the music is completely silent. But then, when you enter this room, you hear this. I looked in every room but found nothing and got even more scared. Then the breathing got louder and louder, and I realized it's below and there is a food elevator to take. So taking the elevator down and hearing the breathing get louder, getting ready for a fight, only for the game to do this. I have not been this confused for such a long time. These blob creatures will not harm you, but you can harm them. But it also seems like they like being attacked. I don't even know anymore. As you discover more of Gloomwood, it's quick to see that there is some form of sickness going around here. You can still hear from several buildings of people coughing and puking, almost like they're having the Black Plague. And it also does seem like some of the sick ones have turned into some of these monsters, like these bat creatures on the opposite level, still using melee weapons to try to kill you. Even the guards you've been seeing a lot does seem to be somewhat infected with heavy breathing and coughing a lot, although they also don't seem sick like the other people in the houses. There is also a woman that seems to be in control over the place, with almost everyone working for her and wanting them to bring you to her. Whatever she has something to do with the sickness is a big question though. But she does appear in the mirror and does seem to really help you by giving you this weird magical hub towards multiple places where you can teleport back to. The old guy from earlier will show up again as a shopkeep where you can sell and buy items from him, like a briefcase with more inventory space, which is super helpful. His prices may be steep, but damn, he does get items that are worth getting. You do also have an inventory system which I quite like. You have a limited amount of space and have to decide which items to keep and which to leave behind. It's also just fun to make it look nice and structured. You also have different movement options like walking and then sneak walking, crouching and then sneak crouching. Sneaking while crouching makes the least amount of noise, but you're very slow when doing so. You are hard to detect when sneaking, but enemies might still hear you if you walk on a solid surface that can make a noise. Everything you do pretty much makes noise, but some does a lot more than others. And the enemy will react differently depending on what type of noise it was. Like for example, throwing an object towards a direction will have an enemy react and they will walk towards it. But if you shoot with a gun or a shotgun, almost everyone around in a huge area will hear it and will run towards the sound. So that's also something to keep in mind. The enemy's AI are also very solid. They don't feel too overpowered or too easy. Now, I already like how they react to the different noises, but there's also a lot more to them than that. They'll also notice if a door has been opened when last time they were there, it was closed. They also have a much harder time seeing you if you hide in the dark compared to the light. You can turn off lights and unlight candles to make it hard to spot you. I really love how all this comes together to create a pretty tense stealth game. And it becomes even more tense when you mess up. Like me killing this guard only to hit an explosive barrel after. I do have some gripes however with the game. The rope climbing is really clunky. Like you can climb it up and down and it works fine, but letting go of the rope or jumping off it is such a hit and miss. It led to me dying multiple times and it was super annoying. I mentioned earlier the AI being pretty solid, but even that sometimes completely craps itself. Like in this clip where there's multiple guards that saw me, but instead of attacking me or going through the door to attack me, they just stood there. I killed them one by one, they didn't do anything, and I have no clue why. But again, these issues are small, and this game is still being worked on. This game as a whole is just fantastic. This game was an absolute blast to play. The mix of horror and stealth led to one of the best games I have played this year. And there is so much good content here, and there's still more to come. This game is going to add more places to go to and new mechanics, which I'm super excited for. This is the best early access game I have ever played. Released later in the same year, Goblins is by far one of the simplest games David has made, and honestly, it's just okay. I mean, I enjoyed it well enough, but I kinda expected a bit more, to be honest. The story is that the guy you play as opens a chest that contains these goblins that start to cause chaos around the world. So, with a knife and a gun, you have to put an end to their terror. There are different types of goblins to kill and a score system, if you care about getting a good score. You also get to travel to different places like modern day city, ancient Greece, the future, and Dracula's castle. All in all, these are fun locations, but this game is very simple. I mean, to be fair, this game costs like $4, so my expectations should not be high, but considering the music machine cost the exact same amount as this game, I think you can understand why I feel a bit disappointed by this game. It kind of feels like a side game in a much bigger game. The gameplay is perfectly fine, not nearly as good feeling as something like Dusk, but it works. The enemy variety is okay, and visually, it looks fine. It was decent fun, but my god, this was the most played it, done with that game in this entire video. Personally, this is my least favorite game I played from David so far. It's okay fun, but I really expected more. I think this is by far David Szymanski's most unsettling and weirdest game he has made yet. Squirrel Stapler is about a man who has a rotting corpse of a wife in the corner of his bedroom who he wants to make beautiful again. And by that I mean hunt squirrels and staple them on her. Hence the name Squirrel Stapler. I must say, the name of this game was pretty spot on. This game is not serious and pretty silly, all things considered. The concept of killing squirrels and stapling them on your dead wife is so dumb, but I really love it. But of course, this is still somewhat a horror game, if you can believe that. You essentially spend 5 days hunting squirrels. At first it's just 5 normal squirrels with nothing unusual happening. The second day, however, you also have to start hunting one big squirrel each day. But now the ghosts of the squirrels you killed will come and hunt you and hurt you. You can luckily shoot them, but they will come back. Day 3 is where things really start to ramp up, where you have the squirrel bears hunting you, and if they spot you, they'll run towards you and explode, doing a lot of damage to you. There are luckily health drops you can find to heal yourself. You can also read up on some notes about the squirrels or some artists here, you know, for the extra sweet Squirrel Stapler lore. There's also this hut you can enter where you commit some form of sin. I don't know, man, this game is already weird as it is. Day 4 is the same as day 3, but day 5 is pretty special because that is when God is coming. After hunting the squirrels, you'll get a message with God is coming, and it is the most threatening thing I've ever seen in the game. At first there's no sound, until the music starts to ramp up with this weird chanting and loud noises, feeling like God is coming to punish you. I was really terrified and uncomfortable of what was going to happen. How was this God going to look like, and what will he do when he arrives here? And when he finally does show up, the game is over. There is also another mode to unlock in this game. By collecting these blue boxes, one each day, you can unlock big squirrel mode. And yeah, I think it speaks for itself. The squirrels just become big. So, Squirrel Stapler is exactly what I expected it to be, and I'm not disappointed. I just love weird games like this. They just never leave your mind. This game was pretty neat. Pony Factory was released on January 18th, 2024, and just like the Squirrel Stapler, this game is not serious either. Despite how dark and creepy it looks, it's really not. The game has you playing as someone entering an old abandoned facility. You don't get to know what exactly the goal of your character is until the very end, but you can at least piece together that these horse skeleton monsters, they need to go away. To kill these monsters, you get a weapon called the bolt gun. You also get a flashlight to see in the dark and have to switch to the weapon when attacking an enemy. Now this game is also pretty simple, just like Goblins, but in my opinion, I think this game was way better. It has a much bigger charm, and I think the atmosphere was really solid here too. It does kind of feel like an unofficial sequel to the Squirrel Stapler. You can even find a note saying how the squirrels are here to cause trouble. But what I really like about this game is its visual style. well. The dark areas are in black and white, but later on you see more areas with colors, and the colors really pop a lot in this game, and it can look so pretty. I think this is visually one of my favorite games of David. These pony creatures used to be actual humans filled with sin. They were supposed to be used as an army for this guy called Winston, who used to be the CEO of the company. But they started going berserk and in the process killed everyone, including him here. The last note you can read from Winston is pretty funny. And late into the game you find what apparently the main character was looking for, a glowing orb of some kind. The game ends with you fighting against this boss with this really silly track that is reminding you that yes, this game is dumb, but it's also awesome. Once beaten, you're outside and can finally leave the facility. In the end, it is revealed that the character you played as was the son of Winston, the CEO. And now with his magical orb, he can use its power to control the pony army. The pony factory was pretty good. I liked it a lot more than I expected. It was short but very sweet. Butcher's Creek was released last year. This game takes you in the shoes of a journalist trying to investigate a cult at Butcher's Creek. He has to face off against cult members and uses weapons in environments to survive. This game really reminded me a lot of Condemned Criminal Origins, a game where you play as a cop trying to investigate after a suspect while you have to defend yourself from lunatics. Having to use weapons from your environment like pipes, blocks of wood and so on. Having to block attacks and have a stamina bar. It's very similar to Butcher's Creek, with the biggest difference being that you don't get to use any handguns in this game, whereas in Condemned you can use some guns. The weapons will also have a limited use. After some time they will break. This is great because it creates such a good tension when fighting an enemy, only for the weapon to say goodbye and you have to run and find another one before the enemy can kill you. The combat is very satisfying. Hitting enemies has a good amount of punch to them, although some weapons does feel better than others. The axe and the heavy hammers were my favorites. There are two classifications for melee weapons in this game. Small weapons you can swing a lot but you can't block, and weapons where you can block but you have much less swings before the stamina bar depletes. The stamina bar is one of the biggest components of the combat. You always have to be careful to have enough stamina when fighting, because if you don't, you won't be able to run or attack. You can, however, make the stamina bar get full again by successfully blocking an enemy attack, though that is easier said than done. Sometimes enemies can swing faster and all the time slower, plus you can only block for like 2 seconds and then it leaves you open for a second, which is the perfect opening for the enemy to hit you. But again, this is really great. It makes the combat feel so much more satisfying and not mindless. You can also kick enemies to stun them or to kick them down a pit. You can also use the kick move to kick objects against enemies, which sometimes can just make them disappear out of reality for some reason. The game does not let you save at any time, but instead you have to find these tapes laying around and use it on one of these TVs. They also use to extend your health, so when you use one of them on one of the TVs, your health will go down a bit. The other way to heal is to take pictures of bloody messes or blood on the wall after killing an enemy. Sometimes I will try and kill an enemy nearby wall just so I can take a picture of the blood after and heal a bit. I really like the game's location too. They're really cool. You find an underground bunker, you're outside at the farm at night, a house with a lot of party lights and an underground factory. The visuals also complement the environments a lot. I love the dark use of the colors and how it all just looks run down, like all the rust and grime around the environment. This game can also get pretty atmospheric, especially when you walk outside and hear footsteps and yet nothing appears. It works wonderfully at creating fear. The soundtrack also absolutely rock in this game. A lot of the music is ambient background noise, but it also has some absolutely awesome tracks that appear when there's a lot of enemies to kill. The music does remind me a lot of Dusk, but not exactly the same either. It still has its own style. This game held several surprises I did not expect to see, like the fact that this game is a sequel to Pony Factory. Never in my life would I expect to go into this game and expect it to be a follow-up to Pony Factory, of all things. But it actually makes sense that some of the cultists even wear the pony skulls on their heads. After the son of the CEO had taken this powerful orb and tried to create a pony army, he pretty much felt as it gotten out of control, which led to his death. The exact same fate as his father in the Pony Factory. So a creature called the Watcher is in control now, and this leads out to one of the weirdest endings to any of these games so far, which is saying a lot. This was in general just a fantastic game. This really exceeded all my expectations. This is a game I can highly recommend. But now we're at the final game in this video. But this game is also the most what the fuck, he made this? This man has made games about cults, religion, sacrifice, horrors beyond belief, squirrels. But here he is, making a game heavily inspired by Harry Potter, where you kill people with objects and can do this with your head for some reason. This game, just like Gloomwood, is also in early access, but I definitely say that this one is in way more early access than Gloomwood was. This game was not only made by David, but also his two brothers, John Szymanski and Evan Szymanski. I forgot to mention it earlier, but John actually worked at Pony Factory with David, but both Evan and John has actually made another game together, this being My Friendly Neighborhood. I haven't played it myself, but I heard a lot of people really like this one. Secret Agent Wizard Boy and the International Crime Syndicate. Wow, that's a long name. It's about an undercover agent trying to find a mystery of a cult around this school. For now, your main objective is to find the different crystal balls and open this door. You can play this both in single player and multiplayer. I pretty much just play single player for this. However, this game was surprisingly fun. Like, I would expect this game to be just really meh and boring, to be honest, but it ended up being very solid. This game can be absolutely chaotic. The physics in this game are absolutely insane, like you will die a lot from them. I died so many times, just shooting some planks and boom, they'll just fly towards me and kill me. But god, it makes it so much more fun. Plus, you can also use this against NPCs and enemies, and it's just absolutely glorious. You can also unlock different spells. One is for damage and to push objects away, which can also make them explode when bounced off a mirror for some reason. A shrink spell that shrinks things, and you can shrink things until you can't see them anymore. A spell that puts things on fire, a spell for lifting objects, and lastly a spell that makes you able to turn into any object or person. These spells are super fun to use. Despite only being 5, you can do so much with them. But spells aren't the only thing you can use. You can also find melee weapons to bash people with. The same with objects to throw at them, and with the crazy physics, it can at times just demolish them. There are some collectibles you get, like these weird donut things that make an eating sound when you collect them. This is used as currency for buying things at shops, or when you have to use a shrinking spell. But the best collectibles are the emblems, where if you have enough, you can upgrade a certain stat like health, jump, and so on. This game is not only a sandbox open world game, but it's also a stealth game. I say stealth game lightly, because if you expect this to be as mechanically complex as Gloomwood, you will not get it here. If you kill an NPC when a camera is watching you, the alarm will go off, alerting every other agent nearby. But if you kill the student outside the camera, even when the agent nearby, they won't react, unless they saw you hurting the student. You can also find vents to enter and hide from enemies. But yeah, this game is pretty bare bones as a stealth game. But again, this game is still in very early access. This game for now is not long at all. When you finally collect the crystals and enter the door, which will take about 1 to 2 hours, you will find a note saying how they're going to expand this game so much more. I see this game having a lot of promise. This game was already fun to play, but I have a feeling that when it's finished, it's going to be great. This was another surprise. Very fun game, and I can only imagine it being even better in multiplayer. There we have it. I played through all the current games David has either directed or at least heavily worked on. When I started doing this video, I had not played any of these games before, only really heard about some of them. When playing these games, I was really impressed by its catalog and the variety. Even the games at worst were still alright, and some end up being actually some of my new favorites. So with having playing them all now, I decided to do a very quick ranking at the end here, from worst to best. At the bottom we got Chop Goblins, then we got A Wolf in Autumn, Fingerbones, the Moon Sliver, Secret Agent Wizard Boy and the International Crime Syndicate, Squirrel Stapler, Dusk 82, The Pony Factory, Iron Lung, Dusk, Butcher's Creek, Gloomwood, and finally, The Music Machine. I'll look forward to his next product and see where it'll go from here. But for now, I thank you all for watching and I'll see you all in the next video.